I love this character, and I'll never play her again, but I also feel a huge sense of accomplishment. I'm so happy with the movie when I watched it. It's just the perfect way to end. It's so intense and emotional and satisfying. So I'm mostly just feel excited now for it to be released, for people to see it.
It's bittersweet. We are taking a lot of love and respect and friendship off this movie. We all had such a great time together. And for me, I loved Effie. I was really influenced by her sense of style. I wear a lot more color now. I'd probably just be wearing black 24/7 if it wasn't for Effie. And I am very sad that I won't get to see these lovely people as often anymore.
It's such an atypical thing, living with a character so long. You know, it's such a rarity. I mean, we get 28 days, we get 36 days, we get 2 weeks. We barely get any rehearsal. You know, you're in and out, and then, you know, like 4 years later, you're talking about it in a press conference, and then that's all you get, you know? And then it lives forever, longer than you do, you know, on this sort of eternal shelf life of film. So it's very strange, you know, industry to create something you love with people who you fall in love with and then have to leave it.
The first Hunger Games movie was really the first film that I'd ever done. So I had the opportunity to learn an incredible amount about acting specifically while working with the wonderful cast.
The intent of this, of Suzanne Collins, of me, of everyone actually who was involved in this project, is that it would be a catalyst for young people all over the world, everywhere, that they would see in it their doom and the possibility for a decent future.
The manipulation of the media and the ability of the media to control the population, I think, is a very powerful theme throughout the book. And I think young people are very savvy about media and really understand the degree to which the message is constructed for effect. And I think President Snow and the Capitol in general show an extraordinary ability to keep a population in line through the production and consumption of media, whether it's through the Hunger Games and the televising of the Hunger Games and the turning brutality into entertainment, or through the propaganda wars which follow. And I think one of the most interesting dynamics in the story is to see how then President Coyne, who starts out with a sort of gray appearance and a gray presentational style, learns to take on the tools, you know, that you become your enemy. As you imitate your enemy, you become your enemy. And she imitates the media savvy of the Capitol and eventually takes it to levels that surpass what anybody might have expected.
There are a lot of messages in this movie. Sacrifice, the personal sacrifice that's needed for change. The importance of being involved, of doing something. You know, Katniss lived in one district and it was unfair and there was frustration, but she didn't know. It was all she knew. It wasn't until she was selected for the games that she traveled around the country and realized that this frustration was everywhere. And so I think one of the most important messages is that of sacrifice, of the consequence of war. She's kind, she's ruthless, she's independent-minded. She's strong but merciful. Yeah, I wish that I could have a percentage of her courage and thoughtfulness. She inspires me in every way. We had a blast in Berlin. We've said, and I swear I'm not just saying it because we're here, you could read other interviews where we were not here and said that Berlin was our favorite leg of the shoot. We loved the city. We had so much fun. And I think that, some of the dark, ominous architecture really adds an amazing element to our movie. I think it benefited greatly from shooting here. We shot in these tunnels that were made on a soundstage in Atlanta. It was much harder for Liam. He couldn't stand up straight for 12 hours a day. And just we were just soaking wet all day, which was hard, and just exhausting doing those stunts when your clothes are waterlogged. You've got an added 20 pounds. It was really difficult, but I think it paid off. The scenes are phenomenal. In the tunnel, Francis really, really nailed that with making it terrifying and emotionally driven and captivating. So I can safely say it was worth it, but I did get roundhouse kicked in the face, so that wasn't fun.
It is interesting because being 15, I think that I've had the opportunity to be able to talk to a lot of the fans that are close to my age, and it's been really inspiring for me. Reading the books, like I said, they really kind of made me think and made me question things, and that's something that I think all young people want and need, is something to inspire them.
For me, I think it's a real feeling of satisfaction and accomplishment. It's these movies have been last 4 or 5 years of our lives, and characters that we've been with for a long time. And it's cool when you get to do a kind of a saga type thing, because you get more movies to sort of explore a character and show different moments. But it's bittersweet. It's sad to say goodbye to working with these people. We still see each other around and about, but it's different when you're not in the sewers for hours and hours and hours on days on end.
One of the best things I'll take away from this is I made such good friends, Jen and Josh, and then the entire rest of the cast, and we had such an amazing crew the entire time as well. And I think that'll be something that I'll always miss, is just being able to work with such a good group of people.
It was such an extraordinary group, and they were so wonderfully inclusive, which was a big surprise. That doesn't happen all the time when you walk into an established cast. And I really enjoyed being a part of it and meeting these people, and also being a part of something that's such a global phenomenon.
I still feel like I've grown so much sort of over the last few years, as an actor, and I've sort of had the opportunity to work with some of my heroes, growing up watching these guys on the big screen. All of a sudden you're sort of rubbing shoulders and, as Josh pointed out, running through sewers and banging heads on pipes. And, it really does, there's a bond that we all share, an experience we've all lived through. And, I think that's invaluable, really. I feel like I've grown, I suppose.
I think, quite honestly, that the movies and the stories, the books, are about the consequence of war and the consequences of violence. I think those themes really come into play with this movie. And I think it's this story and this movie that sort of gives the series, the entire series, its meaning. I think they're timeless ideas, unfortunately, because these kinds of things that are happening in the world now, have been happening for thousands of years. And Suzanne Collins, based a lot of the stories on Roman history and actual battles and actual, stories and narratives that took place then, and they've been happening since. So yes, there are definitely parallels to things that are happening around us. Bittersweet feeling that I have to say that I feel, completely creatively fulfilled having worked on these movies. It's very satisfying to do this last film, especially because of the closure that it has, and to see the history of the characters and the relationships all come to an end is really pleasing for me. So I'm happy for the fans to see that, but it's going to be sad to say goodbye to everybody.
I was excited to shoot at Tempelhof, honestly. As I rolled up to the set, I kept taking pictures of it to send to my father, who used to fly into Tempelhof when he was stationed in Frankfurt. So it was interesting to be in a place that was so historical and to be shooting something. And then I was in Berlin probably about a week and wandered around the Mitte and shopped and bought a pair of Birkenstocks, and which I bought another pair yesterday. So, I love Berlin. I went to high school in Frankfurt, and it was a different Germany then, obviously. It was before the wall came down. So to see the city, which is the center of so much interesting culture and is so alive, has been really, really fun for me.
And I think, too, what's really great about it is it takes, like he's saying, something that, historically, you look anytime there's been a group of people that have been oppressed by a government or a regime, eventually they band together and rise up, and there's a revolution led by a Mockingjay-type figure oftentimes. And it's cool to have a movie like this that's accessible to younger audiences as well, because it's an important thing to talk about. And it's, if you don't learn from your history, then you end up repeating it, and hopefully we stop doing that. And through things like this, they get young people thinking and talking and more aware of these kind of issues, I think is something meaningful and also entertaining and fun. So it works out in a lot of ways.
For all of us, there's a certain kind of melancholy in seeing him on screen again, after we lost him. Phil was an extraordinary actor, and I think everyone felt that way. I'd worked with him quite a few times, and it was always an honor to be with him, and it was a huge, huge loss. That was one of the things that was so fascinating for me about playing Coin, is that, and Frances and I designed it so that she would start as a revolutionary, as a freedom fighter, and she's someone who's gradually corrupted by power and by her desire for revenge, and who eventually becomes a tyrant or a despot.
Working here in Berlin, the crew was fantastic. Great technicians and craftspeople, and great background, and fantastic locations. Obviously, it's why we came here. So it was a fantastic experience.
We spent 3 weeks in these sewers, and for someone like myself, who's quite a bit taller than the rest of the cast, I spent 3 weeks like this. This is fun, and we're having a good time. And also, you're wearing a combat outfit that's not made to be in water. So it would literally fill with water, and you're treading around in knee-deep water and doing these fight scenes with the mutts attacking us, and it was a strenuous few weeks.
We'd all stand there with towels wrapped around us between takes, standing in front of heaters, trying not to complain.
We'd go back to the heating tent. Everyone would just sort of sit there staring at the floor, and no one really knew what to say, because it's just like, God, 3 more weeks of this.
I remember we were all sitting there in the tent one time, and we're all just zoning out, staring, and Jen was sitting in her chair, and she just gets out a book, opens up a book. I'm just like, why do you read so much? I don't know, just wanting to pick a fight. I'm just like, I just want to express anger.
The writing is so brave, it's dark, it's not condescending to its younger audience, it deals with important themes, and yet is so commercially viable that for a blockbuster, that is so few and far between. So I'm really proud it shows that you can handle serious subject matter when you've got someone like Frances at the helm, but it can still be commercially viable to such a huge extent, and that you can have a female protagonist at the front of that is also very important.
The production designer went on a worldwide search for the kind of architecture we needed, and we were looking at things with a brutalist or mixed with kind of a classical aesthetic. And we found amazing, immersive architectural environments in both Paris and Berlin. And so we focused our attention on those cities and moved here.